All right, good morning, everyone. This is Executive Consultant Doug Parker, and I am in McKinney, Texas, just north of Dallas. And so we're going to get tuned in, and we're going to start this training. It's the first one that I've done on Zoom for Japan. So what we're going to do is just go over some basic fundamentals, and it'll be an informal training. So it's going to be at 7:30 a.m. Central Time in Texas, and it'll be 9:30 p.m. Japanese Standard Time in Japan on Sundays. So we've got some folks that are joining in from Japan. We've got some folks that are joining in also from Canada, as we will be expanding into the Canadian market here very soon. And so we're going to get started and get going here. So today we're going to go over invitation, presentation, validation. We're going to go over the written list. Really what that boils down to is just the basic fundamentals of our business. So if everyone can hear me okay, that's excellent. If you want to turn your cameras on, great. If you don't have a camera, no problem at all. And then we are also going to record this, that we'll be able to present it in the future as well. So I'm going to jump right in and start talking about a written list. So when it comes to your written list, Ambit has a tool in the back office that is called the, give me just a second here, I'm going to turn off this this other thing you guys hearing in the background. All right, there we go. Okay, so when it comes to the written list, you can build your written list, and really it has to do with truly having a list. Now, some people like to write it out with a pen and paper. Others like to have it in an Excel spreadsheet, and that's fine. The one thing that you do not want to do is just to pull out your phone, and then you look at your phone, and in your phone you say, oh, I have all of these people that are all on my list. These are all people that are folks that I know. And that's great to have those people. The problem with that is that there's no way to kind of designate, have you talked to them about Ambit? What was the last thing that you did with them? Kind of what's going on and those types of things. So I'm going to show you a couple of things that I've done over the years that have worked very well for me. And you always want to be adding to that list, expanding that list, talking to new people. And so when you're brand new in the business, the first thing that we want to do is just get out a piece of paper and just start writing down people that you know. Everyone that you can possibly think of. They don't necessarily, you don't have to have their telephone number right now. You don't have to have their contact information. You just want to start making a list of people that you know. And as you make that list, there will be people that, you know, maybe you'll talk to this person and you'll go, oh, hey, that person's cousin is this person. I remember meeting them one time at an event. And you just continue to expand that list as far as you can. Some of the studies show that the average person knows about 250 people. With social media, it has been amazing how there's people that you forgot that you knew that you remember later. So it's gotten up into the 500 or 1,000 or maybe even 2,000 people. I have something like 2,000 names and numbers in my phone alone. So it's very easy to have a huge list. But if you're new in the business, my recommendation is always try to get a list as quickly as you possibly can of at least about maybe 150 or 200 people just to start communicating with. And that gives you a good foundation. And then once you get that list prepared, then you can go from there. But sometimes people will say, well, I only know maybe 10 people or 15 people or 20 people, and they just don't know how many people that they know. So Ambit has a list building tool. It's called a memory jogger, and I'm gonna share this screen with you very quickly so you can see what I'm talking about. And it's the memory jogger. Now the memory jogger is in your power zone. So for those of you that are in Japan, you just go to powerzone.ambitenergy.jp. Here in the United States, it's just the same thing with just .com, and then in Canada, it will eventually be .ca. We're going to talk a very little bit about Canada towards the end of this call, but today primarily is just the fundamental list building part of the process, and briefly on invitation, presentation, and validation. So let's jump in and look at the memory jogger. Now, for those of you that don't haven't spent a bunch of time in your power zone, make sure to get in there and get familiar with it. It's in the tools section. So the Ambit memory jogger. So you go through And this is just a tool to help you build a list. You're not prejudging anyone or pre-qualifying them. You don't worry if you don't remember their last name or their full name or their phone numbers. You just start compiling your list. And then as you get your list compiled, you can add the additional information on there later. Now, some of the things that you want to look for is who is the most successful people or person that you know. A lot of people, we just did a training yesterday down in the Houston, Texas area, and someone did a training on recruiting up. And what that means is that when you're recruiting people, a lot of people tend to recruit down. So if you're a 6 or a 7 on a scale of 1 to 10, you might go and recruit people that are 5s and 6s because it's easier to have influence over people that are kind of when they're on the influence level that are a little bit below you on that level. And then those 5s and 6s, they go recruit 4s and 5s, and the 4s and 5s recruit the 3s and 4s, and the 3s and 4s recruit 1s, 0s, 1s, and 2s, and maybe some 3s. So what happens is it's this constant dissension of where you're going with your recruiting. So you always want to recruit up who is the most successful people that you know. You may not think that they would be interested in this business, and they very well may not be, but they might know someone else that is. And the more successful people are, the larger their sphere of influence is. So write down who is the most successful person that you know. In addition to that, who is your neighbor? Okay, you can write down, most people have a neighbor on the left side, they got a neighbor on the right side, they got a neighbor that lives across the street from them. Write down your neighbors. One of the other kind of interesting things is who do you know that drives a Mercedes? Now, obviously, that can be expanded to who do you know that drives a BMW? Who do you know that drives a Honda? Who do you know that drives a Toyota? Who do you know that drives all types of different vehicles? And you can expand that list, make a list of every single car that you know of. Hyundai, maybe it's all the Japanese cars, then it's all the German cars, then it's all the American cars. And then you'll say, who do you know that drives those types of cars? Who do you play sports or do recreational activities with? Are there people that you play different games with? Maybe it's go to bingo, or maybe it's things along those lines. Who is your best friend in high school? Who do you vacation with? Or who would you like to go on vacation with? Who are some friends, family members, things like that you would like to spend some additional time with? Who is your best friend in college? Maybe it's brothers, sisters, brothers-in-law, sisters-in-law. Who is the best man at your wedding? Who is the bridesmaid? Who are your cousins? And that list can be expanded, obviously, very, very far. Who are your children's friends? Okay, who are their parents, depending on the age of the children? Who's the person at work that you most closely identify with? Who's your friend? Who are your friends at work? Let's see here. Who do you know that's sharp at work? Who do you know that does a really good job at work, and that you would like to maybe potentially talk to them about this opportunity? So let's see here. What else have we got here? Who do you know from the PTA? Now, here in the U.S., that's like the Parent Teachers Association. I'm not sure exactly if they have something like that in Japan, but it would be someone at maybe the school that the parents kind of get together who coordinates things along those lines with your children's schools if they're in school. In addition to that, who do you know from church? So you get the principle here. I'm not going to go through every single one of these questions, but who do you know that earns over $100,000 per year? Now in yen, I think that's like 10 million yen per year. I think is that number. So that's somebody that's super successful. This is my little puppy Cricket. She's here with me today, hanging out. So anyway, it was early in the morning, so I took her from the house so she didn't wake up my wife, but she's hanging out with me today. And being a little nosy now, wanting to see what's going on. People like doctors, people that are attorneys, insurance agents, all of those types of people are folks that you can put on your list and expand your list. So those are folks that you want to kind of be looking for. Lists of occupations. There are a list of people. Sometimes people say, oh, I don't know this person or that person. When you start looking at this list, an accountant, an actor, an architect, a background artist. There are all sorts of folks that I'm going to silence a couple of these that are making a little bit of noise. All right, here. We got a little bit of background noise coming through, so if you can mute yourself, if on the call, I can mute everyone. Give me just 1 second here. All right, can everyone still hear me? All right, fantastic. So we'll continue on here. So as you see, there are a list of many folks, beekeepers, biologists, educators, game show hosts. I mean, there's just all kinds of people that you might know someone, a dentist, farmers, things along those lines, historians. So what you want to do is get your list out and then start expanding that list. And as I mentioned, I personally use an Excel spreadsheet. I prefer that. And I keep people on my list, even if they tell me no, that they're not interested, until they just say, hey, I am not interested in this opportunity, or whatever the case may be. So I'm going to turn off the screen share for just a few minutes and then just kind of see where we can see everyone. All right. So that's the number one thing you got to do, because you have to have a list if you want to be able to communicate with these folks. Now, secondarily, once you get your list put together, you want to go through and look for the people that are business minded and money motivated. The reality is, when you're talking to folks, if they're not at all money motivated, it's not saying they won't be a good fit for the business, because they might be motivated by helping others, and that might help them make money, things along those lines. But you really do have to find folks that are money motivated, and then business minded. Because if they've got a head on their shoulders where they're sophisticated, they want to do some business, that always helps out. Now, don't underestimate anyone, because I will tell you that many people out there, they don't necessarily know all the business, but it helps them to grow faster whenever they have a business mind. So anyway, with those things being said, that's something that we always want to be on the lookout for, is business minded, money motivated. So you go back through that list that you've compiled of 100 to 200 people, and then you start going through and working them, and making the phone calls and doing the invitation, presentation, and validation. So we've been on for about 15 minutes or so now. I want to just kind of open up the line for just a minute to see if anyone has questions as it relates to the list building part of the process. And then we're going to touch very briefly on invitation, presentation, and validation. And then each week we're going to add a little bit to it. So we'll reiterate the list, and then we'll start talking about invitation pretty heavily the next week, and then presentation, validation, and then do kind of a recap of all of that. So I'm going to unmute the lines for just a moment and then see if anyone has a question. You can always chat as well. So let me jump in here and see if I can unmute everyone and allow you to jump in and speak. Or if you want to unmute yourself, maybe that's better. If you want to unmute yourself, click the little unmute button up there if you've got any questions. Does anyone have any questions? All right, fantastic. So it doesn't sound like there's any questions anyone has now. So I want to jump into the second part of what I want to talk about after the written list, and that is the invitation, presentation, and validation, and kind of how that process works. So we've got our written list, as you can see right here, the written list. And on that written list, what we're going to take is go through and start contacting people. Now, a lot of people like to use social media and blast out things all over social media. Personally, I don't think that is a duplicatable, proven system, because what happens is you're blasting a bunch of stuff out. Let's use Facebook for an instance. Yesterday in the training, I'm talking to everyone, and some people are very good at utilizing Facebook. Now, the problem is that whenever you put stuff out on Facebook, if it has to do with business opportunities, people don't go to Facebook to look at business opportunities typically, unless it's in a group that is specified for that. What you normally see is people go to Facebook to look at what's going on in your life. Maybe if you've got pets, or maybe kids or grandkids, or just kind of what's going on in your life. Maybe you've got a quote that you like, or maybe it's a picture that you like, something along those lines. The one way that you can always tell if someone is really tuned in with what you're posting, look at who likes them. Look at who makes comments on it. For instance, if you're an Ambit consultant and you post something about making money with Ambit Energy, or financial freedom, or whatever the case may be, if every single person that likes it are just other people that are in Ambit Energy, then that goes to show you that your regular friends that are not part of the opportunity, they don't care about that. And most of the time, they don't like those types of things. Most of the time, what they do is they just kind of disregard what you're putting out there because it's not relevant to them. Now, if you post a picture of your grandkid or a video of your newborn or whatever the case is, and all your friends like it, you can see that it's a direct, different response. That's kind of what to do. Now, you can use social media to reach out to people just to, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? Like in a private message. And then you might ask them a question like, hey, I'd like to visit with you about something I'm doing right now. I'd like to show you something like that. That'd be fine. Or asking them if they're interested in an additional stream of income. That invitation is literally something that simple. On a phone call, it might be 5-10 seconds. Hey, are you interested in an additional stream of income? Again, next week we'll get more in depth on invitation. If they say that they are, then you transition immediately into, let's schedule some time to do a presentation, maybe 15-20 minutes of uninterrupted time with access to the internet for the presentation. You can do it in person. You can invite them to check it out at one of the meetings. Of course, in Japan, we've got the meetings on Tuesday nights at the Shinagawa Prince Hotel at 7:30 p.m. In Osaka, we've got it there as well on Thursday nights. And then I think on Wednesday nights, it's in Nagoya. But we've got the Success from Home magazine that you can do an invitation with, and then to do the presentation, I should say. And then once you go through the presentation, there's some very specific questions that you can ask folks. Again, we'll get into that here in 2 weeks. But you always want to ask for the decision. You want to ask people to join the business. And that's something that I think has changed a little bit in Japan over the past month or so. Whenever it was the open enrollment, there was no cost to get started. That was a different dynamic. It was people would ask for it because they would probably say something like, hey, it costs nothing, just give it a shot. And they weren't treating it like a real business. They were just kind of treating it like a lottery ticket. Maybe something happens, maybe something comes out of it. Hey, take a chance. This is making a small investment for a huge return if you go to work. And so we'll talk about how to ask for that decision here in a couple weeks. And then validation, the 3-way call. And that is a huge piece of this business and how we're going to be able to expand that. Validation. So we'll jump into validation here in 3 weeks. And what does a proper validation look like? How do you set up the validation? And then, of course, you want to sign them up and get them enrolled in the business. You want to help them change their lives, help them achieve financial freedom, and kind of go through that process with them. So it's been now about 20 minutes. I'm going to try to keep these trainings to 20 to 30 minutes, but that's kind of the funnel, if you will, that we'll be going through is written lists. Off the written list, invitation, presentation, validation. You're always going to be asking for the decision during the process. Sign them up as a customer, as a consultant, or both, and go through that process. So that's all I'm going to talk about today as it relates to the written list and that process. Again, I do want to open up the lines for any questions that you may have. So I'm going to take the screen share off for just a few minutes and see if anyone would like to chime in, ask any questions. Marion, I see that you're on the line. Good to see you on there. We've got Gina, we've got Hideaki, Hikaru. Hello, Hikaru, how are you? And we've got Alma, Perez. So just jump in and ask any questions that you may have. I want to get these addressed. And this is going to be a normal rhythm that I'll be doing on Sunday evenings in Japan. It'll be early in the morning here in the United States. But we'll keep that process going and make sure everybody knows what's going on. Any questions that anyone has to this moment? All right, I see. Let's see here. So Alma says, hi, can I ask the questions about the customer asking me why do they switch? So yeah, Alma, that's a great question. So whenever it comes to the customers themselves on switching, we've got in Japan a guaranteed savings plan. So the way that works is it's a guaranteed in writing 1% savings that no matter what, you average out 12 months of bills that they'll guaranteed to save at least 1% over that average. Now, over the past couple of months, the first bills have started coming in. And from what I have personally seen, the savings have been anywhere from about 8 to about maybe 11% savings. So they're significantly higher than that guaranteed minimum right now, which is what we were trying to accomplish. We had kind of explained that that was what we had anticipated happening. However, we guarantee 1% no matter what. So that is why, that we would ask the customers to be our customer, or ask them to be our customers, because it helps us accomplish our goals. It saves them a few dollars. And then if they're interested in the business, we would obviously ask them to be their own first customer. I hope that answers your question. If you have any follow up to that, obviously please chime in, and we'd be happy to answer that as well. Hello, Lottie. Thanks for joining. Good to see you. So any questions anyone else has? All right, so I'm going to transition for just a moment and talk a very little bit about Canada. Canada is launching next week on November the 1st. So be aware that that's a new market that's coming on. I've been in this business for about 4 years. And in that time, I think when I started the business, there was 9 states that we were in the United States. Now we're in 16 states and Washington, D.C., and in Japan. The Japanese expansion was announced last year in January. We expanded in May is when we kind of officially started everything with the pre-launch, and then went into the full-blown launch in July. Had just unbelievable growth with that. And then we've already announced our next international expansion, which is in Alberta, Canada. That launch is scheduled again for November the 1st, and everything is ramping up for that. So we anticipate that will be happening here in the next couple of days. Just to kind of reiterate the list building process, one of the things that would be an excellent idea for all of our Japanese consultants or consultants in Japan, not everybody is Japanese, but our consultants in Japan, would be to start asking people, who do you know that is in Canada, or who do you know that might know someone that's in Canada? That's something that you could put on your Facebook feed. That's something that you could kind of get some communication going. That's a great way to expand your list. And I talked to someone at corporate the other day that is absolutely in the know. And it is my understanding, and this is Doug Parker's opinion at this moment, but it is my understanding that in the near future, Japanese consultants will be able to sign up United States consultants as well as Canadian consultants. Now, I don't know if in the near future means 3 weeks or 3 months, but I would anticipate sometime between now and first quarter of 2018, that will be a possibility. So start expanding your list. It's a good conversation piece. Even if the Japanese consultants can't sign up people in Canada right now, it will give you the opportunity to potentially sign up others in Japan that know the Canadian folks, so they can start growing their business, hopefully get them promoted to regional consultant or maybe to senior consultant before the opportunity comes to expand into Canada for the Japanese consultants. So that may be a good way. That is a good way to expand your list there in Japan. So I think that's that. I think that's all the questions that were addressed. Oh, I see that Gina has a question. So let me unmute you real quick. All right, Gina, hold on for just a moment. And can you unmute yourself, Gina? Is that possible? Hey, Gina, are you there?
Hi. Yes, I'm here.
Okay, what question do you have, ma'am?
I would like to know how to attract more listener or customers, I mean?
How do
How can I make them interesting to what I'm saying?
Okay, so let me make sure I'm clear on your question. So you would like to know, how do you get more people to be interested in becoming your customer?
Yes, yes.
Okay, very good. So I'm gonna put you back on mute real quick. Okay, so to answer that question, Gina's question is how do you get more people to be interested in becoming your customer? And that's a great question. So many times people take things out of order, and it's normally because they just don't know the best process to go through. Everything is relatively new in Japan. And so the one thing that I would always advise you to do is start with the invitation to become a consultant. Ask people, are they interested in making extra money? We know that everyone wants to make extra money. It doesn't matter if they are very, very wealthy and very, very rich, or if they're very, very poor and don't have much money. Everybody wants the opportunity to be able to make additional money. And so that's what you start out with. And then when you go through the process of the invitation, you do a proper presentation, which is to show them the videos that are provided on the website for your Japanese website. And then you go through that process, and then you're going to ask them a series of questions to identify if they're interested in the opportunity. And if for some reason that they self-select and say that they are not interested in becoming a consultant with Ambit Energy, what we would do then is to ask them to at least consider to become our customer, because it won't cost them anything. It'll save them some money, and it will help you accomplish your goals. And I've just now made a note here that I'm going to add to this also. Why? What is your why? A lot of people hear about that, but we'll expand to that a little bit more in depth as a probably a fifth week of this particular training. So we may go through and do the why next week, and even before we get into the invitation, presentation, and validation, just simply because it's very important to be able to clearly articulate your why, and not just to say, oh, I want to make more money, because everybody wants to make more money. But people are adverse to change. Not everybody likes to change. And when you talk to them about switching off of TEPCO or this or that, they get fearful that there's going to be some kind of disruption in service or some kind of a problem. And then they're like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. 1% savings, that's not enough. They'll say something like that. And now we've got proof that our savings are significantly more than that. But still, sometimes people don't want to change. So that's okay. But if you tell them that they're your friends, they're your family, they're people that you know, and you explain to them, I'm going to give you a scenario, Gina. This may not be yours, but it may be that you have children, and it may be that you personally were not able to be educated, higher education, go to university. I know that I've never been to university ever. I did not have that opportunity when I was growing up. I grew up without very much money. And so one of the things that I wanted to do for my children was to allow my children to go to university, but I wanted them to graduate with no debt at all, because the debt in the United States for student loans is very, very, very high. And I did not want my children to have any debt. So one of the reasons why I started my Ambit business and started working it very aggressively is because I wanted my children to go to university, to be educated, to have a better opportunity than me, and to be able to graduate with no debt whatsoever. And so I've had an opportunity for my children to go through and do that and be able to pay for it as they go to school. So it's worked out very, very well for my family. Now, if you were to tell me that you weren't going to be my customer because it was a little bit of an inconvenience and you're my friend or my family member, I would tell you that, so you're not going to help me, with my children. You're not going to help me. I'm going to show you guys something here in a minute. So you're not going to help me with my daughter, Valerie, and put her through school, even though that it's not an inconvenience for you. It's a small inconvenience for you, but it'll really help me accomplish my goals. And my son, Riley. So you're not gonna help me, and you're my friend and you're my family member. That really would be disappointing to me. And whenever you're talking to people, you say the reason why I'm doing Ambit is because I want to put my children through college, and I don't want them to have any debt. And so I really appreciate, if you're not interested in the business, that's no problem, but at least be my customer, because you're my friend and you're my family member, and it's going to save you money. It doesn't cost you anything to become a customer of ours here at Ambit Energy. So that's how I would address that. But we really need to figure out what your why is, have it written down, and be able to truly communicate it very clearly, because sometimes people just won't be your customer if they don't really know why why it would help you out. Okay, does that make sense, Gina?
Okay.
Very good, very good. Do you have did you have any other question?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
All of my prospect clients, they look the starter kit very expensive. They don't look it reasonable.
Okay, repeat that question for me one more time.
The starter kit is the Ichimang yen.
Ichiman yen, yes. Yeah, 10,000
Yes.
yen,
They look that very expensive.
Okay. So what I would communicate to you there is that the Ichiman yen, to get started, the initial investment, and this is from a sales process that I've been in that business world for many years, and people will say that it's hard to justify the cost if they don't see the value. So Ichiman yen, 10,000 yen plus the 2,500 yen for the website. While that is not a little amount of money, okay, it's not a lot amount of money either. Okay, so it's not something where they're starting a business where they're having to do 1 million or 10 million yen. It's not something that's that large. But if they can't justify the cost, it's because we haven't built enough value in this opportunity. And what I have personally experienced in my time in Japan and in my time in the US with this business is many people do not follow the process, and that's why I'm doing the training on this. They don't have a written list. They don't do a proper invitation or presentation. They don't really ask for the business, and they don't do a validation call. What they do is they call their friends up and they say, 7-Eleven, $1 billion, Jerry Thompson Jr., grandson of 7-Eleven founder, big company. Do you want to join for Ichiman yen? And when they start skipping those steps, then it gets to the point where the person that they're visiting with, they can't wrap their head around the opportunity, and they don't want to make an investment of Ichiman yen because it's hard to justify the cost because they don't see the value. So you have to do a better job of building value in what we're doing. And the way that you build value are things like explaining to them what your why is and how that it's going to help you accomplish your goals. And then you may not have a success story right now. So what I mean by that is I can share my success story because last year I was a top 50 income earner out of almost 500,000 consultants in Ambit Energy. I was in the top 50 of all of the consultants in income. So I've had success in Ambit. I believe in it. I get it. But you may not have that level of success just yet, and that's okay. So what you do is I would encourage you to get with Richard and Mary Amoedo and get copies of the Success from Home magazine. Because if you don't have your own story, you can borrow a story from someone else that's in the book. And so there was an article that was done on my family right here. And you can take that and discuss that. Or maybe you can say, I know this gentleman from the United States. I've met with him before. And you can share these stories that are in the magazine. You can also share the story that Chris and Jerry have on the inside of the magazines. On the inside of the magazine. Okay, so those are stories that you can build value in the opportunity to properly be able to ask someone for that. And the Ichiman yen, if I told you hypothetically that you give me Ichiman yen, and 3 to 5 years from now, I'll give you 1,000 times Ichiman yen. And the only thing that you have to do is spend maybe 15 to 30 minutes a day having a conversation. Well, obviously you would do that, okay? And, you know, it's a very straightforward process. Now, there's no guarantees on how much income that you can make in this business, but there's no limitations either. And so what we've got to do is just build value and show the success that is proven. We don't want to coerce anybody or trick anybody or say anything that's not true. But these stories in the magazine are one way to build that value, to help you build the value to be able to properly ask for the Ichiman yen. Okay. So, Gina, did that answer that question for you, ma'am?
Okay. Where can I get that magazine?
Okay, so if you go to the Shinagawa Prince Hotel, now, Gina, you said you live outside of Nagoya, 2 hours.
No. I'm here in Saitama.
Okay, Saitama. Okay, that's right. So, so what you'll do is if you go, is the closest meeting to you the Shinagawa Prince Hotel?
I did go there.
Okay, so if you go there, and let Richard and Mary Amawedo know that you would like the magazine, I'll let them know that you plan on coming, and send them a message, and then that way you can get a copy of that magazine, and you can use that as a tool to discuss with people. And then everything that you do, I want everyone on this call to remember this: everything that you do, you are duplicating with someone else. And what I mean by that is that you are you're modeling for them how they should do it, regardless of whether or not it's correct or not. That's what you're doing. You're modeling for them what they should be doing. So if you tell them it's great, it's 7-Eleven, it's $1 billion company from the U.S. and let's go, what they're going to do is the same thing that you did. It's like our children. They don't do what you say, they do what you do. And so that's how children learn how to speak, is because they listen and then they duplicate what you say. And so you have to be very careful what you say around your kids. Otherwise, they'll be saying the same stuff that you're saying. The same thing happens in this business, is that the people that you sponsor and bring into the business, they are your children. You are sponsoring them in the business, and they now become your children. And then the people they sponsor are now your grandchildren. So that's how this business works. So if you show them the Success from Home magazine, and you show them the stories in it, they're going to want a copy, and they're going to want to show those stories to their friends. And there's stories from every walk of life in here: people that were business owners, people that were firefighters, people that were police officers. There's all different types in here that you can read the stories. And then there's educators, there's teachers, that if you have someone that's that type of business or that type of person, you can share with them the stories that are in there for that. So yeah, if you come to the meetings, make sure and send a message to Richard and Mary Amawedo, or send me a message and let me know, and I'll forward it over to them so that they can bring some magazines for you and get you going. I believe they're 500 yen. I think is what the price of them is for the little 500 token or coin. But with that being said, that's what I would recommend. Let's see here. Gina, did that answer your question?
Yes, can I get that in mail?
I don't think so. I think you have to get it from the meetings.
Okay.
So what's the closest meeting to you? What is the closest meeting?
The Shinagawa.
Shinagawa. Okay. Yeah. So put it on your schedule to go there, but you need to make sure to let Richard and Mary know, because to bring those magazines, they're coming from Osaka. So we got to make sure that they got to bring them with you or with them for you. Okay.
Is there another seminar in Shinagawa?
Every single Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. And speaking of that,
I didn't hear that.
What's that?
Yes. Continue, please.
Okay. So, that's a great question you ask. Is there another meeting? So part of the success of this business is a proven system. And the proven system is the invitation, presentation, validation. And then sometimes people are not prepared to sign up right then. So then the next logical step is to invite them to come to a business presentation, because sometimes they know you, but they don't know that you have any success in the energy business. And so they want to make sure that it's legitimate and those kinds of things. That's where coming to the hotel meeting will help add some additional value and clarity on the opportunity, because maybe they watch the videos and they said, oh, I want to see some real people. Then they show up at the Shinagawa Prince Hotel. They see Richard and Mary Amawedo, and they've got yellow jackets, which means they've made $1 million US in this business. So they see other successful people that are making it happen. So that's another reason why to invite them to the meeting. And then also, you can get around other successful people that are having success in Ambit, I should say. And it makes it to where when other people are being negative about the business, that are friends, family, whoever, you get around other people to help build your self-esteem up and give you some tools to go back out and continue to do the work. If all you do is get beat up, out with people telling you, bad stuff about it that are out there, and you never have anybody feeding good stuff into you, it can really be difficult to succeed in the business.
Okay, thank you.
You are very welcome. Thank you for those questions. Those are good questions. And this is absolutely a participatory, webinar. I would love to have anyone else ask questions. I appreciate everyone jumping on. Marion, I see that you're on there. Lottie, Marie, Alma, Ms. Jimenez, and Hideaki. Hikaru, if anybody has a question, raise your hand, or just, if you can, unmute yourself. Would love to answer those before we wrap up.
Hi, Doug. This is Hikaru speaking.
Hello, Hikaru.
Hi, I just want to confirm, you mentioned that for Canada market, so far, Japanese consultant cannot sign up Canada consultant yet. I mean, from November 1st.
Well, so here's what I'll clarify. All I know for sure is that Japanese consultants cannot sign up US right now, because that's how it's been for the last little while. But a couple weeks ago, I was on the 5-star trip with corporate, and I specifically asked, when are Japanese consultants going to be able to sign up US and potentially Canadian? And they said that they are working on it right now, and it should be very soon. So I don't know if that's part of the Canadian rollout, or if it will be after the Canadian rollout that will occur. But it is on their list, and it is coming in the future. So I just wanted to let people know that would be a good topic of discussion, and just let them know that it's coming. Don't know the exact date, but that it is coming, so that the Japan consultants are not waiting to communicate with people about Canada. At least start building a list, at least start expanding your list, so that you can talk to people that are in Japan and have them be Japanese consultants. Get them promoted through the compensation plan, so that when it becomes official that they can sign up Canadian consultants, that they've already got their list, they've already started getting promoted, and it's already working through the system. Okay.
Oh yeah, actually that's different from my understanding so far. My understanding, I think I heard that for Japanese consultant we can sign up American consultant.
Right now?
Yeah, right now, always. Can you double confirm?
I'll have to. I'll get with corporate on that. It is my understanding that you can't sign up U.S. consultants or customers yet.
I can. Personally, I have signed up many customers, no consultant yet, but I was told I can sign up with American consultant also. Okay.
Well, we'll get clarification on that, because I think there were some in the very beginning, obviously that first day, when we worked 15 hours on the launch of Japan. I know that there were some customers that came through, but I think there was some issues with getting the bonuses that were associated with it. And I think we had kind of done a workaround to get you certified and some other stuff, but I don't think it's officially all structured properly just yet. But I will research that. I'm gonna make myself a note to clarify that for you and get back to you on that. Okay.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
That's another question. So I heard that in Japan by 2020, every customer has to be switched to some other companies besides to monopolies. Is that true? Do you know?
Yeah, that is my understanding as well. So what happens whenever a market deregulates, the government comes in and says that we're going to open it up, and it's going to be open for competition. And so what happens is there's the generation, there's the delivery, and then there's the actual retailer. So by 2020, everyone will be forced to make a switch, is my understanding, and they will either be switched over to someone away from the incumbent provider, or what happened in Texas was In the past, it was Texas Utilities. TXU is what TXU stands for. So there's now Encore Delivery and there's TXU, okay? So what happened is the company split. Encore Delivery would be like TEPCO, and then TXU would be the new company that still retails electricity, but it's not part of Encore. They've separated. So obviously everything in Japan is built kind of on the Texas model, but it's not identical. So it is my understanding that as they fully kind of start separating, that TEPCO will be over here as the delivery for the power lines to keep everything stable and all that. The energy will be generated and then put on the power lines, and then there will probably be a TEPCO retailer of some sort. I don't know if it'll be the same name or not. And then all the customers will be forced to either go to Ambit Energy or other companies, or this other entity that is the new TEPCO retailer, if you will, that kind of separates. So then it'll be where everybody will be forced to go to one of those alternatives. And one of them will, I'm sure TEPCO will still have an option to be a retailer of some sort, but it'll be a separated company, or at least that's how it is here in Texas. And so I would anticipate that being similar, but I would be careful how you explain that, because all we know is what we've done in Texas and what we anticipate in Japan. But the rules, everything kind of is subject to change as it processes through there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I just want to remind you, there's just a couple questions on the chatting place. Maybe
Thank you. Yes, thank you for reminding me of that. I will look at these real quick. Let's see here. All right, Ms. Jimenez. How can I be American certified so I can also have my own consultants in America? Okay, so that's what Hikaru and I were just visiting about. So Ms. Jimenez, that's basically what you have to do, and the way that I have done it. And Hikaru, you can jump in and correct me if there's anything that I need to correct here. But ultimately, to become United States certified, instead of going to powerzone.ambitenergy.com, you go to, .jp, you go to .com. So I'll type that message out and then text it to you. But essentially, it's powerzone.ambitenergy.com, not .jp. You log in with the same credentials, the same C number, and the same password, and then that's the United States Power Zone. And then once you get into the United States Power Zone, then you can go in and log in and do the United States certification on Ambit U and go through that process. So that's something that we can definitely work on, probably offline, because not everybody probably wants to go through every step of that, but you become US certified. And then that just makes it, that's the first step to doing it. But again, I want to clarify, it is my understanding that while you may be able to sign up customers from the US, the problem, I don't think the compensation is intermixed right now, where you can get paid for bonuses and stuff on it. I think the customers will count, but I don't think the compensation is there just yet, because I don't think that the systems are connected in that way. So I would be very careful about doing any of that. Definitely get with your upline executive or national consultant so we can clarify that, and then go from there. I'm gonna stand up for 1 second because my lights went out. I'm not moving around enough, so my lights went out. But so that's the process of doing that. And then let's see, what other questions do we have here? And this, just to clarify real quick, does that answer your question on certification? And go ahead.
I'm sorry, if I remember clearly, I think for the American certification, there's some link I can find it and send out.
Okay.
After that, people can go to .com, powerzone.com.
Yeah, repeat that real quick, Hikaru.
I think there's some specific link. People need to go that link to get American certification, then go to login powerzone.com. I'll check that and send out.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for doing that, and thanks for your help on that. And we'll continue to get clarification on these U.S. certifications and what can happen as we do these conference calls on a regular basis, and then kind of go from there. So, are there any other questions, Hikaru, that I've missed there? I think we got them all. Having difficult convincing customers. So one other question that Ms. Jimenez asked here is, until what level can we receive commissions from downlines Jumpstart? So I think there's two questions there. Number one question is, if you're an IC, you get paid 7 levels, okay? 7 levels of compensation on the monthly residual. So that's on all your downline there, 7 levels. And then on the Jumpstart bonuses, that's a separate conversation. As an IC, you're paid on who you sponsor. Okay, so if you bring in 5 customers, then they're paid. I'm sorry. Let me think back to this real quick. They bring in the first 3 customers, and then it's the 5,000 yen, and then 5 more customers. Total 5 more customers for a total of 8. The other 5,000 yen is paid out, but that is for the sponsors. You don't get paid the Jumpstart team leader bonuses until you get promoted to regional consultant, senior, executive, and national. But those bonuses are unlimited levels. Okay, so there's no levels on the Jumpstart team leadership bonuses. Okay, so that's the 2,500, 4,000, 4,000, and I think 1,500, 1,500 on the national. Those are for unlimited levels, and we can definitely pull up the compensation plan and go over that on a one-on-one basis as well. But yeah, that's unlimited levels on those leadership bonuses. And then also, once you get promoted, there's the additional override of the 25 yen, 50 yen, 75 yen, and 100 yen. That's the coded bonuses for the monthly bill there, the residual there. So those are unlimited depth as well, as long as they're coded to you. So so that's that. Well, guys and ladies and gentlemen, it has been about 50 minutes, so I definitely want to try to keep these under an hour for you. Appreciate everyone tuning in, and next week, again, what we're going to do is probably spend some time on reiterating just a little bit the written list. We'll spend some time working on the why, having it written and being able to clearly articulate it so that people understand how they're helping you. And then we'll get into the invitation, presentation, validation, just kind of continuing to cover those. I'll leave you with this last statement. So amateurs practice things until they get them right, and professionals practice things until they cannot get them wrong. So if you want to get paid professional income from this opportunity, I highly encourage you to practice, practice, practice until you cannot get it wrong, so that you are able to truly earn great income and become financially free. So if there's not any other questions right now, I would just recommend go out there and be ambitious.